Now, any source we know, like last time we talked about, if we are having a source that a single wavelength source will consist of a wave train which will be almost a pure sine wave. But such kind of wavelength is only ideal and it is not realistic. So what happens in reality is we don't have such kind of pure waves, but there is a whole range of wavelength which is involved. So if I am having this pure sine wave, let's say, so if it's a pure sine wave, then if I plot this on the frequency scale, then I will be having only one frequency corresponding to it. Or if I'm plotting it in the form of wavelength, it must correspond to only single wavelength. So let's say it is this lambda naught and nu naught. But for practical sources, it does not happen. And instead of getting such pattern which is ideal sinusoidal, what we get is a rather disturbed pattern. When you translate that to a frequency or wavelength axis, it looks something like this with a spread which is given by, let's say here it is delta lambda, and on frequency scale it is delta mu. Thus, every spectral line is having a finite width and a continuous distribution of wavelength. So it is not like that if you are having a source which is emitting a light which is delta from the range lambda to lambda plus delta lambda, then all the wavelengths will be there in the range going from lambda to plus delta lambda. So in that case, this would become lambda by 2 and this side width will also become lambda by delta lambda by 2. So your wavelength will range from lambda to plus lambda with the mean at lambda naught. So this is any kind of practical source that you take will be having this kind of nature of spread of wavelength. So if we are talking about a source which is a normal light or let's say sodium vapor lamp or even a monochromatic source if you are talking about, still it will be having some kind of spread. Even for laser that kind of spread is there, but then the spread will be really very narrow. So that you can attribute to the purity of the source. So in term of line width, if I am talking about purity of the source, the purity of the source is given by smaller is the spectral width, more pure is your source. So if we want to compare, let's say I am having a monochromatic source which is let's say krypton. So a normal source which is even claiming it to be monochromatic will be having the spectral width which is given by this. Then if I take another example, so this is krypton source. The second one, if I take example of a diode laser which is having little less spectral width as compared, then your width will become narrow. And a good example of a high purity spectral source is a helium neon laser. So if I'm having a helium neon laser, it will be very fine. So almost negligible spectral width, but it is impossible to convert this width to zero. So any kind of source that we see is having some or the other kind of spectral width. That means you are having, instead of a pure wavelength, there is some range of wavelength which are uh, there in that source. So now what will happen to this component of range of wavelength or frequency if we are talking about a interference pattern? So let us take for example the Michelson interferometer pattern, which we have already studied. So let us take example of Michelson's interferometer. In Michelson's interferometer, we all know that if we are having mixture of two wavelengths, let's say I have one lambda 1 and another one is lambda 2. So if you recollect our discussion for about getting to know the difference between the two discrete wavelengths, if our source comprise of two discrete wavelengths, lambda 1 and lambda 2, then we will have the highest contrast of the pattern when the lambda 1's minima is superimposing with lambda 2's minima as well. That will be the condition for getting the highest contrast. But if we are having a source which is having a range of wavelength instead of having two discrete wavelengths, so let's say we are having a source which is having range from lambda to lambda plus delta lambda. In that case, we will be having all the wavelengths in this delta lambda be available in the source. Then, if um, we know the condition for interference for Michelson's, at the center it is given by 2d equal to n lambda, where n is the order of the fringe, lambda is the wavelength of light, and 2d is the optical path difference between the two mirrors. Now, as this 2d will keep on increasing, the contrast will keep on becoming poorer and poorer, and once this 2d exceeds the coherence length, your pattern will disappear. That means once the optical path difference between the mirrors of Michelson's exceeds the coherence length of the source, then what will happen is all the wavelengths will start to make their individual pattern, and let's say for the highest contrast position, then what will happen is you will have or what we can say is all the wavelength will start to create their own pattern, for which because of this shift in lambda, the position at which they are going to form the pattern will also be shifted. So in that case, the contrast will become poorer and poorer, and once we go the distance which is greater than the coherence length, this will also disappear. So even if we are having a highly monochromatic source, which for now let's say only comprise of lambda, for that also whenever this 2d will exceed LC, your pattern will disappear. So now we will try and see what is the role of this delta lambda in making the contrast of the pattern poorer. So let us take example of this lambda 1 and lambda 2. So for the highest contrast pattern, we know that if this is the pattern, then the same position you should have lambda 1 and lambda 2 both at same position. then that we call as the position of highest contrast. And we considered the situation such that the 2D will come out to be n times lambda 1 for one wavelength, and for another wavelength it would be equivalent to n plus 1 lambda 2. That is how you go from the position of one highest contrast to other highest contrast. So here, for the position of highest contrast, when you have the combination of two discrete wavelengths lambda 1 and lambda 2, so we will have a position of highest contrast when 2D equals n times lambda 1 and n plus 1 times lambda 2. But now, with the same scenario, we will be having the poor contrast if so for the poor contrast to follow, if lambda 1 I am taking as black and lambda 2 I am taking as red, then for poor contrast, we want one's minima to go on others maxima, such that if this is lambda 1, then we want lambda 2 to come just out of phase with another one. So in this situation, we are not looking at actually the interference of the two. Uh, Sorry, in that case, it will be better if we talk about the central pattern itself. So if we are having these points as maximas of lambda 2 and the middle portion is the minima of lambda 2, then you will have highest contrast when the same position is acquired by lambda 1 pattern as well. Then for the poor contrast, we will be having, if lambda 1 is making, if lambda 2 is making this pattern, then for poor contrast, lambda 1's maxima should be in the position of minima of lambda 2. In this case, we will be having poorer contrast, or if I can rewrite the condition as, for the poor contrast, 2D would be equal to n times lambda 1 but n plus 1 by 2 times lambda 2. That is, instead of whole wavelength shift, if there is a half wavelength shift, then the contrast will become poorer and one's maxima will be overlapping with another pattern's minimum. So now if I can rewrite this as, so to speak, we can write n plus 1 by 2 equal to 2D by lambda 2, and n we can write as 2D by lambda 1, and hence n plus 1 by 2 minus n can be rewritten as 2D by lambda 2 minus 2D by lambda 1, which will be equal to 1 by 2. So let us start with this equation only. This is equation for, this is equation for poor contrast in MI. In MI, So now we have 2d by lambda 2 minus 2d by lambda 1 equal to 1 by 2. Let us solve it a bit. So if I take 2d common, lambda, lambda 2 minus 1 by lambda 1 equal to 1 by 2, or 2d equal to lambda 1 lambda 2 upon 2 times lambda 2 minus lambda 1. Or if lambda 1 into lambda 2, I am writing as the average lambda square. So divided by 2 times, and this lambda 2 minus lambda 1 can be rewritten as delta lambda. So this is our final equation, that 2d will be equal to, let us not rewrite it as delta lambda, 1 minute. Let us keep it as lambda 2 minus lambda 1. So 2d equal to lambda square, it's obviously nearly the same, lambda 2 minus lambda 1. This is the condition we have got for poor contrast in Michelson's interferometer when we are having two discrete wavelengths, lambda 1 and lambda 2. Now, for a realistic source, as now we have seen that for every source there will be a range of delta lambda which will be involved. So let us take, instead of lambda 1 and lambda 2, suppose all the wavelength in the range lambda 2 plus lambda are creating the pattern. Then let's say now instead of lambda 1 and lambda 2, now we are changing it to all the wavelengths in the range lambda to lambda plus delta lambda. So it's like if we have a source which is, let's say, 500 nanometer, and plus minus we are defining it as 50 nanometers. So it is same way if I write it as 450. So I have the range 450 plus 100 nanometer. Okay, so both are same notations. So let us convert our equation now for this kind of thing. So now let us have a pattern which is having a range of wavelength. So let's say my starting wavelength is lambda and my end wavelength is lambda plus delta lambda. Then the central one would be lambda plus delta lambda by 2. In this case, if we want to see that the pattern will disappear if we are considering the superposition of wavelength from the range lambda to lambda plus delta lambda by 2. In this situation, we can rewrite this as, now my highest wavelength is lambda plus delta lambda by 2 and my lowest wavelength is lambda. Remember, I am only considering the points from here to here. In this situation, these two will cancel out, and so now if we compare with the previous example, this is my lambda 1, this whole, and this is my lambda 2. So where we were writing lambda 2 minus lambda 1, so instead of this lambda 2 minus lambda 1, now we will be writing only delta lambda by 2. So lambda 2 minus lambda 1 will be replaced by now delta lambda by 2. So we can rewrite it as 2d equal to lambda square upon 2 into delta lambda by 2, and this 2 will also be cancelled out. Hence we will be left with our final expression as lambda square by delta. This is very important expression, and hence we can say that the contrast will become poorer when contrast for Michelson will become poorer when this 2d will be greater or equal to lambda square upon delta lambda. So interference fringe width will disappear when the path difference exceeds this 2d, or we can rewrite the same thing as, so for a normal Michelson interferometer, if the optical path difference exceeds the coherence length, still there will be no pattern. So as your 2D will keep on becoming higher and higher, and once it exceeds LC, you will not be having any pattern. So similarly, we can also replace this 2D by LC, and I can rewrite the same expression as delta lambda nearly equal to lambda square by LC. Hence, this delta lambda is the range of wavelength that is there for our spectral source, or it is also called as a spectral width, and which is given by lambda square by LC. And we also know from the relation we derived in temporal coherence that LC is given by c into tau c, where c is the speed of light and tau c is the coherence time. So this is the relationship between the coherence length, coherence time, and the spectral width, or you can also call it the relationship between temporal coherence, and spectral width. Spectral width. This is a very important relationship. And what is delta lambda? Here we chose it such that we have lambda starting from here, and here we are reaching at delta lambda by 2, but this relationship will also be true for the wavelength in the range lambda plus delta lambda by 2 to lambda plus delta lambda, because if this and this are creating the pattern which are totally out of phase to each other and creating a poorer contrast, for each wavelength in this range there will be same wavelength range available from this to this also. Now if we want to write the same relationship in terms of frequency, then we can rewrite this as frequency can be given by c by lambda. So if I want to write change in frequency, that would be given by minus c by lambda square into d times lambda. So if I'm writing mod of d nu, that can be written as equal to c by lambda square into d times lambda. Hence, let me rewrite this as delta nu equal to c into delta lambda by lambda. And from our previous equation, we know that we just calculated, so we can replace this and rewrite it as c into lambda square by LC into 1 by lambda square, and these two will be cancelled out, and what we will be get is c by LC. So delta nu is c, that is speed of light, by LC, or c by LC, we also know that it can be rewritten as 1 by tau c. Hence, the important point to note here is that it is the bandwidth of spectral line. So if we want the purest kind of wave, the purest kind of wave should have this lambda nu, that is the range of frequencies tending to 0. So if that will tend to 0, that means tau c must be going to infinity. That means the coherence time of the wave train would be infinity. So this will be the ideal pure kind of wave. So hence you can say that there is a direct relationship between line width and the spectral purity. Smaller is this delta nu, purer is your spectrum. So this delta nu should be as low as possible for any kind of source.